G'day everybody again. Now, this week I'd like to address something that has hit the media kind of hard but has kind of been ignored. And that is the actions of Julian Hills MP, who has, without saying directly Republic, has pushed for an Australian head of state. But he hasn't defined the state at which they want ahead of. And this is where we need to look very carefully at the actions of Mr. Hill. Because if he was acting inside the framework of the Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act July 1900 and had taken oath of office according to the scheduled oath in that constitution, then he would be under the Promissory Oaths Act 1868, at which that line of authority details the ability to sit in office. Okay, so if he doesn't have that ability in the first place and the oath that he took is outside of a line of authority, then he's outside of office to start with. But to assume that he had taken a correct oath and he was sitting in office, his actions in the media are an act of treason. He is openly and wantingly trying to underline the line of authority that exists in the office that he actually sits in. So to push to undermine that authority from that supposed authority would be an act of treason. But let's look practically at this. He doesn't work under the Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act July 1900 UK/PGA and its given preamble and line of authority. The Attorney General is in a hot seat right now. Christian Porter has gone silent and refuses to answer any questions in relation to that line of authority. So Julian Hills, now sitting under an oath of allegiance in office, is he in that line of authority at this current point in time? And that's the problem the Attorney General has, because the accusation is that they're not. So if Julian Hills is not sitting in office according to law, and he is outside of office, he is to vacate office immediately, but they don't. We showed you this with Andrew Wilkie and Jackie Lambie. They won't vacate office because they believe they have a lawful right to be in office. So let's look at their oath. And if their oath is linked to a foreign entity at law, Mr. Julian Hills works for a foreign entity at law trying to destroy your constitution at law. This means that he's not in oath to your Constitution Act July 1900. He cannot be through the lineage described in the preamble. So if he cannot be of that Constitution Act, a splotch of rain on the camera. If he cannot be of that Constitution Act, who is he working for while he's trying to undermine your line of authority in you, the people? Because it's your Constitution Act. You all went to a vote for it in 1898 after the debates of Federation, 1899. And on the 1st of January 1901, the Commonwealth of Australia was put into existence. So, Julian Hills, are you working for the Commonwealth of Australia by oath? Or are you not? And when you attempt to undermine the Constitution, are you doing that from a foreign oath or with inside the Constitution by oath? This is something for all the people to think about. Because if a foreign entity came into this country in 1973 to imitate government, and this man is in fact of a foreign oath, then it goes without saying. Here we have a foreigner in our own land trying to destroy the foundations of this land. And that's a very difficult thing to say. Now, you have another man, Luke Beck of Monash University, a supposed constitutional lawyer, touted as a leading man, wrote books for the legal profession, probably signed an oath to the Law Society in the process, negating his oath to the country. So, Mr. Luke Beck, you use the word realm in the paper nationally to defend Julian Hill's decision for an Australian head of state. But you've negated to discuss the entity Australia and what that actually is. You've failed to discuss the close of the seat of government in 1973 that allows Mr. Julian Hill's the oath to sit in his office right now, which is outside of the line of authority and outside of the Promissory Oaths Act, describing Julian Hill's to vacate office immediately by law. Section 7 and Section 11 of the Promissory Oaths Act 1868 detail this very specifically. The Act of Settlement and the Bill of Rights detail the estates and the authority. And the Authorised King James Bible is linked to that not only through our preamble, but through the laws of England and High Court Rules 5A. So, Luke Beck, I challenge you, very openly challenge you, as to your knowledge of what a realm actually is. Genesis 37:9, I'd like you to start there, because if you're ignorant of just that one clause, you've got no idea what a realm is. You've got no idea what this country is. You've got no idea how to defend your position. You wrote books for a academic system, under a government in which you just stepped in to help a man commit an act of treason against the Commonwealth of Australia by enabling him to undermine the line of authority in this constitution already occupied by a foreign crown. You are ignorant of facts, aren't you, Luke Beck at Monash University? And I challenge you to an open debate on these facts. Given that the Attorney-General has gone silent on rule of law and cannot answer as to his line of authority to rule of law, all of those books you wrote that ended up in your university might be, shall we say, defunct, useless. Occupier's law, military code, criminal code. Shall we add all of these things together, Luke Beck? Do you understand or comprehend the line of authority in the Constitution that gave the Attorney-General rule of law in the first place so that you could sit in courtrooms and argue that legislation you like to argue so much? Do you ignore the foundations of your laws and where they come from, Luke Beck? Now, Julian Hill's MP, are you going to continue to make an act of treason daily on public media by trying to undermine a line of authority that gave you office in the first place? And second to that, if you aren't in office and are under a foreign oath, are you using that foreign oath to destroy and undermine the Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act by continually pushing it out of the way for an agenda in a republic that started under Robert Menzies, pushed by John Howard in an act of treason? After an act of treason by Robert Menzies' declaration of war on the 3rd of September 1939, while operating on behalf of a foreign realm? You lot don't understand what realms are, do you? See, you can't define your oath, can you? See, you can't define what you're defending, can you? So you don't know whether you're acting in ignorance like an idiot or with some sort of credibility. Forgive them, for they know not what they do, said the father. And I think some of you do know what you're doing. Julian Hills, are you one of those people purposely committing an act of treason on the Commonwealth of Australia? Let's find out.